Hi friends, I'm Sarah, and welcome to the first video on my new channel, which I decided to call Page of Inkwells. Some of you may know me from my tarot specific channel, which is Sunset Bow Tarot, but I had been doing more and more content on that channel about things like journaling and fountain pens, and I decided that rather than having folks, get stuff that they're not interested in, it might make sense for me to divide that content into two channels and have one channel just for tarot stuff and another channel just for my journaling and memory keeping and fountain pen related discussions. So I am going to, in this channel, put a playlist of all of the videos I've done on those topics on my previous channel, just so that they're all accessible here as well. But from here on out, I'm going to be putting that content on this channel instead. So welcome to the new channel. And I figured I would start off with a sort of mid-year update on all of what I'm doing with respect to journaling and planning. I know this is a really common thing that folks do in the journaling and planning community, and just sort of take a look at, what in their lineup is the same, what has changed since the beginning of the year. And I've had a few things in my lineup change since the beginning of the year. I've introduced some new things, changed how I'm doing some things, and started making some decisions as to how I think things might work out best for me next year. So I figured I would just go ahead and talk about that. I figured I would just start out talking about where I am in terms of my normal, everyday stream of consciousness, brain dump journal that I have been keeping in almost the exact same way for over 30 years at this point, because not much about that has changed, to be perfectly honest. At the beginning of the year, I was in this, but for those kinds of journals, like I said, the ones that I've been keeping for so long in pretty much the same way, I always just use a lined blank book, normally in about an A5 size, which is what I prefer. I prefer a hard cover with a binding that allows it to lie flat. So those are pretty much what I look for. And nowadays I also look for journals with fountain pen friendly paper. So that's really not changed there. I was in this one at the beginning of the year. You can see my cute BTS sticker on there. I filled this one up, I want to say in January sometime, like late January. So this is the volume I'm in now. I did just put a Hobonichi cover on this just because I wanted some pockets and places to keep some other stuff, which I'll talk about in just a second. But inside of it, all I have here is just a regular Rhodia web notebook. I decided to give a Rhodia a try. This is the first one that I've ever used. Again, I've just got my cute BTS stickers on the cover, and I like having this cover on it because it kind of protects my cute stickers. But the Rhodia is great. Like, you can see that I've kind of gone ahead and pre-decorated some of the pages and stuff with stickers. But this is a really, really nice journal. I really, really like the paper. The Rhodia paper is beautiful to write on with fountain pens. If I had one complaint about this journal, it's the fact that this journal is not white paper. It is ivory colored paper. And, I use a lot of different colors of inks and stuff when I write in this journal because I like having multiple fountain pens inked at a time with a choice of colors that I can use depending on my mood. And I just don't love the fact that this has ivory paper. So I probably won't use another Rhodia when I'm done with this, but aside from the paper color, I've loved this journal. It's beautiful. It's got a nice little pocket in the back where I can keep stuff. It's just worked out really well for me as far as a fountain pen friendly journal with beautiful textured paper. It handles all of my broad nibbed, super juicy fountain pens very, very well. I really like writing with broad nibs, and I like pens that put down quite a lot of ink on the page, and this paper handles that really nicely, as would be expected from Rhodia paper, which is, kind of one of the gold standard types of paper that people often cite for fountain pen use. So I've really, really liked this. Again, next one that I look for, I will probably look for a white book, which I don't think Rhodia makes these hardcover web notebooks with white paper, but I found some Clairefontaine ones, and the Clairefontaine paper is white, and it's basically the same paper as a Rhodia. Like, Rhodia paper, I believe, is manufactured by Clairefontaine. So aside from it being white, it should be pretty much exactly the same. So I'm really looking forward to giving that a try for my next journal. And then there are other options as well. I found some other notebooks, like Odyssey notebooks. They make pretty hardcover notebooks like this that have Tomoe River paper in them. And I've also found, I want to give a try to an Endless Recorder. So I do have one of those also waiting in the wings to try the Regalia paper that's in those, which I've heard some mixed reviews on. I'm not sure, but we'll see how that works out. So anyway, again, this is just my normal brain dump. I'm not going to show you any actual pages because it's very personal, but that's where I am as far as just kind of my regular journal that I've been keeping for many years in almost exactly the same way. So let's talk about tarot journaling. Now, at the beginning of the year, I was using this to do my tarot journaling and daily draw tracking. This is a Hobonichi A6 planner. It has a yearly index at the front, and then it has monthly pages, and then it has daily pages. And so I was using a planner like this in the second half of 2023 to do my tarot tracking. And I was really liking it and enjoying it a lot. But I started to get kind of stressed out using this for a couple of reasons. So the first reason is that, like, you can see that there have been times this year where I haven't been totally consistent about doing all of my daily draw tracking, and I've definitely missed some days. And when that happens, I have to skip a whole page in this journal. Like, I have to skip the whole page for that day. Like, there's nothing for me to write about. And it just drives me crazy to have a journal with like blank pages here and there all over it. Like, that was just really stressing me out. The fact that there was a ton of paper in this that I wasn't filling up. And then there also, like, I didn't have a great use really for the monthly pages. Like, you can see that I was basically putting down like what decks I was using. I was putting down what my card of the month was for that month. I was indicating some information as far as, you know, the deck-ins or the, you know, new and full moons, things like that. But aside from that, I didn't really have anything to put in this space. And you can see that it's just like, again, a lot of blank space. And so all of the blank space in this book was really kind of making me a little bit stressed out with using it. I would have finished out the year in it because I don't like not finishing books. I'll usually like wait until the end of the year to actually switch into a new system. But in this case, something happened that made me switch into a new system for tarot in May. So I'll show you that next. So one of the other reasons why this wasn't working out as well for me was because, again, the only thing that I was tracking in here was my daily draws. You know, I had a page to write about my daily draws, but it meant that there was like a total disconnect between what I wrote about my daily draw and any other tarot readings that I did, which I would just record in my regular journal, or anything else that was going on in my life, which again was just in my regular journal. And it was sort of weird because it was like, okay, I'd have writing about a daily draw there, but I would have other stuff that might be relevant in this book. And so that drove me crazy, but I still wanted to track my daily draws somehow, in some kind of calendar or some kind of index that would allow me to, on a monthly basis, keep track of the cards that I was drawing. Because I do like at the end of a month to just take a look at, like, you know, what the major themes have been, what my repeating cards have been, what suits I've been drawing a lot, things like that. It just helps me to sort of like get a handle on, you know, maybe what some of the themes of the month were for that particular month for me. And so what happened is that in April, I did an order from Van Ness Pens, and they sent me these, which these are Midori calendar stickers. Like, these, each one of these is a sticker. And you can see that I've written on them because I decided what I was going to do is at least give it a try in May to use one of these stickers to track my daily draws and actually stick the sticker inside of my regular journal. And what I did, I'll just show you my setup for July, is I just put one of these Midori clips on the page that had that month's sticker on it so that I could easily flip to it, but then just use this sticker to keep track of what my daily draws were on each day, as well as keeping track of what decks I'm using each week, you know, when the deck-ins are starting and ending, full and new moons, that kind of thing. I did this in May and I actually ended up really liking it. And so again, because, you know, Van Ness sent me these stickers for free, like, I'm pretty sure it was just because it was already April and they had unsold ones. And these were for the year 2024. So they were just like giving them away to people. I decided that I would finish out the rest of the year continuing to use these Midori stickers in my regular journal. And it allows me to keep track of my daily draws. And then at the end of the month, you know, I still am able to do all of my calculations and figure out, you know, what my repeating cards were and what my frequently drawn suits were and all of that kind of stuff that I really like taking a look at the end of the month. And then I just stick the next sticker in my journal at whatever point I am starting the month again and move my little index clip to the new one. I just like it better that way. Like, I'm still tracking my daily draws on this calendar in the way that I like to do it, but it's more like integrated in with all of the rest of everything. And if I ever do want to go back and like re-reference a month, it's not that hard to find it because it's, you know, that month is going to be sitting in my journal in approximately the same spot as all of the rest of my writing for that month. So you know, it'll be easy to find it, but oftentimes I don't tend to refer back to these as much. It's more just like an exercise for me to do in the particular month that I'm doing it. And I don't always, you know, need to go back and like see what specifically my daily draws were. It's more just those themes that I consider at the end of the month that are of interest to me, and once the month's over, I kind of don't really worry about it beyond that anymore. So so I'm actually really liking this system, and it's also making things a little bit more consolidated instead of me having to have this entire separate book just for my tarot daily draws. I might see what else is out there as far as options for this kind of thing for next year, or maybe try printing my own or something like that, because I would really like to be in a book with white pages at that point. These are ivory, so they go, you can see they go really beautiful on the Rhodia paper, and these are Midori, so they're Midori paper, so they're also fountain pen friendly, really nice, and you can see that they match beautifully on the pages of my Rhodia. But by next year, you know, if I'm in a book with white pages again, I would rather have some of these that are on white sticker paper. So I'll figure out what else is out there, but I am going to finish out the year using these in this book for tracking all of my tarot daily draws. And that is also part of the reason why I did put my journal in this cover, is just because I have some little folders where I can keep stickers and, you know, keep them stored in this cover so that they're with my journal and accessible to me whenever I need to put in the new sticker. I also have another little folder, and this has, just because I'm doing a deck and walk this year, this just has various like zodiac related stickers that I've been using, you know, when I do entries about my deck and walk. So so that's what's in this little folder. So another thing that I just like to keep on hand is just these little folders full of stickers, and everything is all together in this cover, which is so adorable, and I absolutely love it. And yeah, I will say that it is making me absolutely crazy that I'm not finishing up this book, and as a result of that, like starting in May, I just have all of this beautiful blank Tomoe River paper. So I might like actually cut this book in two and try to figure out something else to do with the rest of this paper, and just have the section that I used, because all of this is making me nuts. Like I said, I don't like not finishing books. Like I'd rather finish the book and then start in whatever new thing I want to start in at the beginning of the next year. But you know, because I got sent those Midori stickers randomly without realizing they were going to arrive, this is what ended up happening, and I don't like it. So I'm probably going to figure out a way to cut this paper out and do something else with it. So as far as daily journaling and memory keeping goes, the other thing that I am still in is my Hobonichi 5-year journal. This is the A5 size. This cover is from a shop on Etsy called Secure Handcraft, so I will link it down below. I still absolutely love this cover. It's so gorgeous. This is everything that I could have hoped it would be. I really love this journal. I think that the A5 is sort of the perfect size for me. The second year is when 5-year journals get really fun, because that's when you get to start seeing, you know, what happened to you on that day in the previous year. And, you know, the more that you fill in as the years go on, the more fun it gets to be able to look back at what happened to you in the past. As I have mentioned before with this journal, I do have these little stamps. So I have one of these little push button stamps that just has little weather symbols on it, and then I have another one that just has little sort of like daily event kind of symbols on it. And I like just decorating my entry with a little bit of stamps, you know, just to sort of like give me a overall high level view of what the weather was that day, and if I did anything particularly fun, like having dinner with somebody or going to coffee or whatever it might be. So this is just really fun. Nothing has changed about the way that I'm keeping this up. I really enjoy it. I enjoy doing this every day, and it's just great. So no issues with this one. Nothing changed about this. So as far as planning goes, I am still in the Hobonichi weeks. This is a really perfect system for me to use as far as just life planning, keeping track of events and appointments and to-do lists. I'm just going to keep this covered up because it's financial information, but what I keep track of in these monthly index pages of the weeks is how my shop is doing. I record the sales I make, and then at the top I put some information about how much money I've made in any given month. So that is what I keep track of there. As far as the monthlies, I do just keep track of like general events, you know, what I'm doing, where I'm going, those kinds of things, just so that I can have a little bit of a month ahead at a glance. And then in the weekly pages, I have a lot of personal stuff in here, so I'm not going to show you any filled out pages, but this is a really perfect setup for me. Basically, on the left-hand side, I'm able to keep track of information about specific appointments, things that I have to do on any given day. And over here on the right hand side, it's honestly just kind of like a running to-do list. Any given week, I just make a list of all of the things that I want to get done or accomplish that week. It's a little bit of a sort of, I suppose, modified bullet journaling method, I guess, where, you know, if I get something done, I mark it one way. If I need to transfer it over to another week, I mark it a different way. This is just really helpful for me because I have a lot of things that I like to do that are not particularly time sensitive, you know, especially when it comes to making things for my shop. So that having just this sort of free space to keep a to-do list and sort of keep track of, you know, whatever specific tasks I have, even if they're not needing to be done on a particular day, is really, really useful for me. So I've really liked this setup. This is the second year now that I've been in the weeks, and it's still working out great. It also, you know, does have those blank pages in the back. So I keep things like, you know, long-term lists of things that I want to look into, things that I want to try making for the shop, notes on videos that I want to film. I am in the process of looking for a job and like going back to working a regular 9 to 5 at this point. And so I don't know what will necessarily happen as far as planning goes when I do that. I still want to keep my shop running, so I will still want to have a planner specifically for shop information as well as for tracking things like YouTube and stuff like that, and keeping track of the videos I want to make and notes and things like that. So I'm assuming that in future times I will continue using something at least similar to this as far as a planner, but for work stuff, in all likelihood, I have usually worked in places where a lot of stuff is done via, you know, electronic calendars like Outlook and things like that, and I usually don't want to like duplicate all my work appointments into a written planner just because it's easier to do all that work stuff in Outlook when you get meeting invites and stuff like that. So so we'll see, you know, what ends up happening with this. But as far as how I've been using this is just sort of keep track of daily appointments, like going to the doctor, having dinner with a friend, or those sort of running to-do lists of things that I need to get done or accomplished. This is a really perfect format for me. So I do see myself sticking with this unless something really changes. So next, however, is where we get into the problem of too many books. You know, I've already mentioned that I basically consolidated my tarot daily draw tracking out of this book down into my regular journal. So that got rid of one of the books. However, I also have these two books going on. So I want to talk about these a little bit as well, because I am starting to feel like I do have too many like separate trackers for different things. Too many books that I like have to pull out on a daily basis. Too many books to be able to travel with. Like anytime I've traveled this year, I've ended up having to like leave stuff behind and then backfill because I can't bring all of it with me. And it's just gotten to be a little too overwhelming. So at this point, I'm just sort of trying to think of some ways that I can really consolidate down some of what I'm doing into a smaller format with less empty space that's more portable. So I'll start by talking about this one. This is a Hobonichi A6 day free. So basically what these have is they have a yearly index at the front, they have monthly pages, and then they have just a bunch of blank grid paper in the back. And so the way that I've been using this is I've been using this as like a media tracker / journal / review / commonplacing. And I've really liked tracking all of that stuff. I just think, however, that I don't need a full book of this size and this format to do it in. Basically, you know, for the yearly index up here, I started just keeping track of like what days I read at all. And then I just got to the point where I like didn't really care. I didn't like enjoy pulling this out literally every night to record whether or not I read. As you can see, most days I do read. I had days where I just didn't even bother pulling it out and got completely behind. And this whole thing, like I don't even really care about this. Like this is not, I don't know why I was doing this. Like I didn't really have a purpose for it because I really do read the vast majority of days. And so like there wasn't a good reason for me to keep tracking this. So I've kind of abandoned this whole tracking up at the front, and I don't know what else to do with this yearly index. So then on the monthly pages, I've just been keeping track of like what I've been reading, like when I start something, when I finish it, you know, what days I've been watching stuff, blah, blah, blah. Again, I don't know why I need to do that on this calendar view. It's kind of fun, like it's kind of cool, but honestly, like, I don't know what I'm going to refer back to from this or get out of this in the future. The real meat of this journal is the blank pages where I am actually recording like what stuff I read, what stuff I watch, reviewing it, putting star ratings on it, those kinds of things. This is really all I need. So I could be using a very small notebook with just, blank grid paper or dot grid or lines in it to do what I'm doing in this larger book, and that would really be all I need for this purpose. So I am, as usual, going to finish out this book this year, but I know that this can be consolidated down into something smaller and more portable if I want to do that. The other thing that I want to consolidate into something smaller and more portable is this, which is something that I started in April. This is an April start weeks, Hobonichi weeks. And I had realized that what I sort of wanted to be doing was keeping kind of a health log or health tracker. I have some things that, I've been wanting to start paying more attention to health-wise, as far as, eating and exercise and, just having a place where I can sort of be recording those habits better, paying attention to how my sleep is, how my mood is, those kinds of things. And so I've been doing that in this little tracker. So what I've got going on here in the index, you can see that this one started in April, but I've basically just been keeping track of like exercise calories or not keeping track. As you can see, I'm like not super consistent about wearing my Apple Watch, which is why in the monthly pages, I have started putting a little, did I wear my Apple Watch or not that day tracker. So I've got that down here. And you can see that I've started keeping track of just like basic mood stuff with a little note as to like why my mood I think was that way that day. I'm using this little red highlighter for cycle tracking, like just some basic information in here. For the weeklies, I'm just doing a food log, and I'm not doing this in any kind of like seriously detailed way. Like I'm not tracking the calories that I eat or anything like that. I really just sort of wanted to do this as kind of a mindfulness practice, just to sort of like pay attention to what I'm eating in a day. Just sort of like, what did I put in my mouth today is basically all I'm interested in keeping track of at this point. So on the little daily boxes here, I'm basically just making some little notes of what I ate that day. And that is all I'm really paying attention to. The problem with this is that I don't have really a good use for the right side of the page. I've been trying to do some things like, tracking like what days I went to bed at a reasonable hour. I've tried some weeks where I've like tried to keep track of like, because I do check my blood pressure pretty regularly. I have like hereditary high blood pressure, and have had it for a long time. And so I do try to like check my blood pressure at least a couple times a week. And so I've been trying to keep track of that, but I don't really have like a good way to record a lot of that stuff. And I feel like as well, this has a whole bunch of blank grid paper in the back that I just have not figured out any use for whatsoever. I do think that having a whole week's to be a health tracker was a little bit of overkill. So these are the two books that I'm looking to consolidate into something smaller next year. I'm actually considering just having these as like inserts in a Passport traveler's notebook. And I do have a couple of Passport traveler's notebooks because I use one as my wallet, and I already own another extra one. And so I'm thinking of actually just like getting some, like a small little notebook to track media, and then a small little calendar to track health stuff, and just having that kind of like all in one place in one book that's like really portable. So that's sort of what I'm thinking about. I'd really like to just like consolidate down and have fewer books that I'm dealing with on any given day, and fewer things that I have to pull out and keep track of. So I like the practices of what I'm doing in these books, but I feel like having a whole book is overkill for what I need. So there are just a couple of other things that I wanted to mention relating to fountain pens that I do that are sort of more of like a chronological journaling type of thing, I guess. This is just like my currently inked log as well as ink swatching. And so I have various like, make some notes every time I ink up a pen, do a little writing test, just to sort of keep track of what I have inked up. And if I get new inks, I do a swatch in this little book. So this is just sort of like a chronological ink and pen log, basically. And this is just something that's fun for me to do. And, it's pretty to look at. I like flipping through it. I really enjoy this book. So this is a A5 Odyssey notebook, and it has, I believe, 68 GSM Tomoe River paper in it. And then this is also pen related. This is a new thing that I started doing just because I wanted to be able to spend more time with my pens and enjoy just the sensation and enjoyment of writing with them. This is just a Hobonichi cover that I just have, again, for protective reasons. This is a Odyssey notebook. This is one of their Cosmo Air Light notebooks. This is basically like a transcription journal. Basically, all I'm doing is anytime I ink up a pen, I take a poem that I love and I write it in this journal and date it and, you know, write what pen and ink that I was using to write it. It's pretty, it's fun. It's a way to spend time reading a poem and writing with one of my pens. So I just really like this practice. Mostly I've been doing poems. I have a few times where I've written like song lyrics and stuff like that. And I like the result. It's like this pretty book with all of my poems that I most enjoy in all different colors and inks, and it's just pretty. So BTS lyrics. So I do really enjoy this. It's just a really nice practice, and this is definitely one that I will keep up. I forgot one last thing, which is my dream journal. This is something that I do like having in a separate book because it's an easy thing for me to just keep on my bedside table and pull out and scribble in, even if I'm half asleep. I generally use ballpoint pen in this. I've been in this book since, yeah, a little over a year at this point. It's getting pretty close to full. So for my next one, I haven't really decided what I'm going to do yet. If I want to move into something maybe even a little bit smaller than this, or even like a passport insert like I was talking about for some of my other stuff, just so that I can consolidate things down into one smaller spot. So we'll see. But again, this is definitely a practice that I want to keep up with, and you know, something that I do like to pay attention to on a regular basis. So that is my dream journal. So that's my mid-year review on my journals and planners. As you can see, most things are going well. If I have any issues so far this year with how I've got things set up, it's really just the too many books problem, which has especially made traveling difficult. And so there are definitely some tracker type of practices that I still want to hang on to next year, but do them in a slightly smaller, more portable format that's kind of allows multiple things to be consolidated together in one spot, so that I don't have to be pulling out as many books on a daily basis, and it's a little bit easier for me to take things with me when I go out of town. So thank you again so much for joining me on my brand new channel. Again, it's called Page of Inkwells, and keep your eyes open. I am looking forward to doing some more content for this channel. I have some more inks that I really want to swatch, as well as some other journaling things that I want to talk about and pen things. So I hope you'll join me when we do that. And thanks so much again, everybody. Have a great one. Bye-bye.